you have a higher chance of winning if you can influence these decisions early rather than come in at the RFP phase where you have other companies that are already talking to these agencies and you're already behind schedule.
How long did it take you to land your first client after you got certified?
So after I got certified, it took me about 2 months. The initial contract was for $4,000 a month.
Is this the first program that you took as far as government contracting, or were there others that you jumped into?
I took a course 8 years ago. It was nowhere near in depth as your course.
What would you say to someone that's on the fence about joining GovClose?
I would say anyone who's on the fence, just know that my name is David Ortiz, and I'm the CEO of Dash Global Inc. I am a graduate of the GovClose program, and I help small businesses build their federal pipelines.
All right, David, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Rick?
Good. So, David, you and I, we speak a lot. You're in the GovClose program. You've been in it for a while now. We not only are talking on our coaching calls, right? Like we have the weekly coaching call, we have the war room, which I guess we could get into a little bit later, but also just through your journey, learning through government contracting and then starting your consulting business and obtaining clients and now working with clients, right? And you have income coming in through that. So it's been an exciting journey for you. And I really wanted to have you on because I think you could inspire a lot of the people out there that are thinking about, and by the way, whether they're in GovClose or not, thinking about, hey, how can I get into government contracting? What is this consulting thing I'm hearing about? Is it worth it? Is it fun? Are you helping people? What are the barriers to entry? There's a lot of questions that people have. So why don't we just get right into it? What brought you into, or what made you start thinking about getting into government contracting?
Yeah, so I've been in the DoD space since about 2020 on the logistics side. And what the consulting piece is always something I've been interested in.
Okay. So Dave, before we even get into GovClose, why don't you just tell me, like, where are you from? And like, just talk about, hey, what'd you do college, then into a career? What were you doing in your career? Like, I'm just wanting to learn a little bit more about you personally.
Yeah, so I'm from Orlando, Florida, originally from New York. I went to school. Actually, I started off in the IT space in cybersecurity in college
Okay.
to DeVry University initially. And then I have always been looking to get into the government space. And I would say about 5 years ago, I started to work with the DoD within logistics. I've had my business since 2017 on the logistics side. And I transitioned into the government, as I mentioned, in 2021, supporting other small businesses and consulting with them, handling their day-to-day operations.
Interesting. And what do you like about it? What have what did you like about it?
So the government space obviously can be a lucrative space. I've always been interested in working within the government in some capacity. So initially, just getting into this space for me was just always something I always wanted to do. I always
Mhm.
wanted to get involved. I never was part of the military. I have family who are veterans. Definitely getting into this space for me was just, it was a natural thing.
Yeah. And do you like this from the perspective of, hey, I just want to, I think it's maybe get involved with some cool technologies and things that are helping the military? Or is it more, did you see a revenue opportunity, maybe a combination of the two things?
Yeah, I would say probably, obviously, the defense side, the revenue opportunity is a plus, but just to be able to help support the country and potentially have a business that could be lucrative within this space, helping other small businesses and just being an advocate for them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just back up a year ago today. What were you doing for work?
So a year ago today, I had my other logistics consulting business where I handle DoD freight in this scenario. I still actively have some clients that I work with on that capacity where I support their business operations, but the
Yeah.
consulting now is my primary focus in helping service disabled and 8A companies win federal contracts.
Okay. And so you were working on the logistics side of things before. So you already knew a little bit about sales. And then I guess you wanted to, and you were also helping companies within the DoD framework. What made you go after additional training? What did you feel the missing piece was that you wanted to fix?
So I think that within the DoD, there's so many angles, there's so many ways that you can get contracts. On the logistics side, it's a little bit different. What I was doing is a little bit of a faster track. And I think that focusing on the consulting piece, it's actually the opposite. It's typically a 6 month to 18-month process. So I just wanted more in depth knowledge on the contracting side, the day to day focus, how to get contracts, how to support companies and build out their business.
Is this the first program that you took as far as government contracting, or were there others that you jumped into?
Yeah. So I took a course maybe 8 years ago.
Mm.
It's been a long time coming. That course had some modules, training, some basic information. It was nowhere near in depth as your course. And I knew
Sure.
that right away once I jumped in and I saw all of the detailed approach that you have and a structured plan on a step by step process on how to be a consultant and help support small businesses.
Yeah. I mean, you really hit the ground running coming into the program. I'm curious, now that you've been through it and we're on the other side, what do you think that the most beneficial part for you was as you were going through it? I mean, I know that we have different things going on in there between the calls and the training and some of the other community aspects.
I mean, I definitely think that having you as a resource has been one of the greatest benefits for me personally, because you see a lot of courses that they may offer a coaching call once a month, and you can rarely get in contact with the person who's running those courses. And in your case, you were always there, just a phone call, a text away, and you provided that resource to the community, which is invaluable because there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of moving parts and you always have a pretty straightforward answer on how to approach it.
Well, especially as you're starting to close deals, right? So for me, one of the biggest things about GovClose was, you're right, I've been through a bunch of courses too, and some of them were great, some of them were not so great. But what matters is the results you're getting from the course. And that's what I feel like a lot of them, I don't even like calling this a course because it's a program. That's right. It's a year long for a reason, right? So I feel like the work starts when you get through most of the training material and you have to put it in practice. And since you've been in, we've created something called the War Room, right? Where now you move over and now everyone that's graduated, we're working together on getting clients, going after getting jobs, right? If you're on contract, what are some of the problems there? Can you think of maybe an example of something that me and you had to work through as you were putting your business into place and going out there and getting clients?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest piece where you helped me have breakthrough is the marketing piece. I think that's something that most consultants have to focus a lot on the sales marketing piece and email marketing specifically, and to be able to target the right clients and actually the right message more than anything is what you helped me with tremendously. And I was able to send out some marketing campaigns and have the right messaging and schedule quite a few meetings and to eventually get my first client.
Yeah. So I always say, if you're not selling, you don't have a business, right? So you have to have the ability to sell. It doesn't matter how good you are. In fact, some of the smartest people I know in government contracting, in other areas too, they don't want to sell. They don't like it. It's not a skill set they have. Some of the people in our program that you know and you've worked with, they want me to do the selling for them. A couple of them, I do some of the selling for them, right? But yeah, it's critical for anyone that wants to be in business for themselves that they actually understand how to go out there and get a client, right? So I could tell you, hey, you could start a proposal writing business, right? But that doesn't mean, even if you are the best proposal writer on earth, it doesn't mean anything if you can't go out there and grab the client, right? So yeah, no, we worked one-on-one on a couple of your emails. It wasn't that big of a switch. It's sometimes just a little tweak that you have to make. And I remember you talking about how many emails you sent and you didn't get any results. And then we tweaked just a little bit of the verbiage. And then what? I mean, how many consultations did you have after that? I mean, it was
Yeah.
fast too.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. I would say after we had our talk within the month of February, I had over 20 consultations booked.
Yeah,
So it was a tremendous turnaround just on the small minor tweaks in the messaging that allowed me to get those calls.
sure. And so multiple calls, we go over things like, what are you going to say on the sales call and things like that. And you have a very specific type of company that you're helping. So why don't you tell me now, like, what is it like to be in business for yourself? What's the day, if somebody's interested in consulting, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, you get up in the morning, you just scream at the world and get going, go for a run. What's your day look like?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the pieces that When you work for yourself, it's easy to get distracted. There's so many different variables. I have 2 kids, so just managing that within itself can be a distraction. So what I usually do is I'm very systematic in my approach, waking up every day early in the morning, and I get to it pretty quickly. So I try to follow up on all my emails and respond to anyone, potential clients, and then I'll start to go into looking for opportunities. I'll look for opportunities for my clients, reach out and try to build a strategic pipeline based on what specific industry they're in and to add the most value I can. So
Okay.
it starts with that. It starts with looking for opportunities. Obviously, there's gaps in betweens, but following up with emails and things like that, because having your own business is, you can have freedom. You can have a lot of freedom, a lot of time, but you also have to be disciplined in your approach and know that you got to ultimately execute and get things done.
I want to take a quick second to talk to anybody watching this that's interested in starting a government contracting business or starting a new profession in government contracting. The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video. Do you work out of your house?
I do.
Okay. And
I
so,
love
and your kids, are you doing that mainly while your kids are at school?
Yeah, so I have a 2-year-old who is here. I have a 12-year-old who's in school, but I'm able to take them to school. I'm able to pick them up. I can move pretty much how I want. I don't have really any restrictions unless I have specific calls that day
Yeah.
where this on the schedule. So
Okay. Awesome. Me-
flexibility is what I'm looking for, what I've been able to accomplish over the last 8 years, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. No, it's really cool what you're doing and how you're helping businesses. Why don't we get into that a little bit? For a company that's not just necessarily looking for your services, but you know, what should they be looking for in maybe a business developer or account executive? What are the type of things that you provide for companies that they benefit from as far as going out there and winning those contracts?
Yeah, so they benefit from me being obviously GovClose certified now, having the experience of you being a mentor, wealth of knowledge, where we can give them a specific system that you've talked about before, which is the roadmap. And the roadmap is where we're identifying these agencies because, believe it or not, a lot of companies, they don't really know who they're selling to, who buys what they sell. A lot of my clients were starting at the RFP phase, which we know that the initial phase is the sources sought in the RFI phase. And that's where you make the biggest impact. And I educate them on that process because it's important for them to know that you have a higher chance of winning if you can influence these decisions early rather than come in at the RFP phase where you have other companies that are already talking to these agencies and you're already behind a schedule.
Yeah. Critically important to find the opportunities before solicitation comes out. And you're right. A lot of companies don't realize there's a market research phase because that doesn't really exist in the commercial world, right? This is a like official phase of government acquisitions that's in the FAR and everyone can look it up. But there's a lot that we can do there. There's a lot more flexibility to talk to the agencies, to talk to the program managers and contracting officers and really help. I don't even know if I like using the word influence, right? Because the program manager, which I was, right? They're often trying to figure out what they need, right? So they have a problem set. They have a problem they're trying to solve, right? And if it's cybersecurity or anything else, they might not be the expert in cybersecurity. In fact, they probably aren't, right? I was a program manager. My expertise was putting companies on contract, managing those programs, and of course, flying, because that's what I did before then. But there was no cybersecurity in my background. So that market research phase is where I had a team of engineers. We're talking with companies. We're talking to industry leaders. We're trying to figure out, hey, what are the best practices, right? What should go into the solicitation? So we get the funding, we have a problem, and now we got to figure out who we're hiring and how they're going to solve it. And that's, if you're in that phase, if you're a company, it's perfect timing for you to come in, talk to the team, and you can make recommendations. Hey, I think you should use maybe individuals that have this type of certification, right? Or maybe this software tool is amazing and let me show it to you. But after that solicitation comes out, well, now the requirements are set. They're set right in there, right? So there's no changing it, right? If they didn't include the certification, it's not going to be in there. If they didn't include that software, it's not going to be in there. So your time for most of the contracts, your time is really prior to that coming out. So you're right. Most people don't understand how to do that, and you do. And that is a very effective way of approaching government contracting.
Absolutely. And this program has empowered me to do that.
How long did it take you to land your first client after you got certified?
So after I got certified, it took me about 2 months. Within 2 months, I had my first client. It was actually an email campaign that I sent out, and he cold called me, and the conversation started then. It took him about 3 weeks after we had our initial conversation, and he called me back and said, "Hey, I want to move forward with you."
Awesome. And so was he paying you $5 an hour? Are you getting a commission if you win something for him? How are you getting paid? What does the deal look like?
Yeah, so the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for 4,000 a month.
Okay. And so what's important about that is we're not getting paid by the hour. So I was making a joke, but for anybody watching this, I just want them to understand that you have a certain level of expertise. If you learn something like government contracting, or if you come from this space, first and foremost, if you charge by the hour, people are going to start watching how many hours you're working, and they're not looking at the value you provide. So if I'm helping a company win government contracts, or maybe even training them to do it for the first time, I mean, broadly speaking, the average small business is making just about $3 million a year selling to the government. I mean, and that's broad. If I take all of the small businesses that have contracts and the total amount of contract spend and divide it, right, we get about 3 million, 2.9, just depends on the numbers. Now, if I'm helping a business bring in a couple million, $3 million of revenue a year that they didn't have before, right? How much is that worth? If I'm helping a business, maybe they're doing 1 million a year and I help them double that. How much is it worth for them to hire me? Well, it's worth, I would argue, a lot more than $4,000, right? But people are working, you can structure these deals in different ways. The point is, what you're doing is you're selling the value that you provide, right? And the value you provide, there's a direct association with how much money that company can make. In a lot of consulting fields, they'll charge 10% of whatever it is that they're helping that company bring in, right? But in government contracting, I don't like to do that. And we can talk about things like commissions, right? But you couldn't possibly charge 10% of the value you bring a company, because it would be astronomical, right? So a company that actually executes strategies and frameworks we put into place, if you're helping them execute that, that is a huge business builder and revenue generator for a company. So yeah, point being that we're providing a lot of value, you're providing a lot of value, and you should be paid for your work. So some weeks you might work a couple hours a week. Some weeks you might put in 60 hours. It just depends. And what's nice about that, and you can have multiple clients that are paying you 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 a month, right? And again, that's the value of being in business for yourself, right? Multiple streams of revenue. So that's what we're after. So let's talk about that. You have a client now, you have your contract, getting paid to do that. How are you going to manage doing the work for your client and keep the ball rolling with bringing new clients on?
Yeah, so that's goes back to just being disciplined with your time and being able to identify what phase you're in with that particular client. So in this initial phase, the roadmap phase can take 2 to 3 weeks. And then once you move on from that, you have the marketing side of things too, because I still, as you mentioned, still have to continuously bring in new clients. So I would say, yeah, 2 hours, 3 hours a day, let's say, give or take, focusing on just research. And then the other couple hours, you're doing your marketing piece. And then the other couple hours, you're having meetings. So I typically have my meetings later in the day so that I can knock out most of the heavy lifting early in the morning. And then at that point, the day goes. So you're constantly busy. You're constantly focused on taking care of your clients, getting new clients, and it's a persistent approach.
Yeah. So that's the way your day is structured. So you're splitting that up between kind of marketing, communicating, and then end of the day, you're taking your sales calls and whatnot.
Sure. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, no, it's interesting because, yeah, you're right. When you're working for yourself, you do have to be disciplined in how you approach the day. Everyone has a different approach to this. So for instance, I usually make it so Tuesdays and Thursdays are when I have calls. And the other days I can do different things I do for marketing, right? Or work that I'm doing for a client, or, hey, it's also a business, right? So you got to run your invoices and make sure, the payments are coming in, and QuickBooks, if that's what you're using, your bookkeeper's getting everything. We're in tax season here. So I just finished that up, which was a lovely obstacle to get over. We all have to do that. What do you think the most valuable strategies that you've picked up from the GovClose program are that you're implementing?
I would say just the program as a whole, me coming in on the wanting to be a consultant, I felt like the strategies that you taught us about the market research part, identifying agencies, making sure that companies know who they're supposed to be targeting, and then building out the next step, which is the targeted pipeline. So you're not wasting a ton of time looking for opportunities in the wrong areas. And then also the next step of that, which is reaching out to these agencies, trying to set up meetings, helping
Mhm.
clients with that, because I find that most clients that I've worked with, they don't really have the time to do those things. So this is a tremendous value to them where you can schedule meetings for them, whether it's conferences, sometimes on site, depending on what industry they're in, and
Yeah.
to help grow their business essentially, and they can work in the business. And sometimes there's entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, but they can just focus on that piece and I can focus on the business development side to help them keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Getting meetings is a huge part of this. And you're right. A lot of companies aren't thinking that. A lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna war dog this thing. I'm gonna just find some solicitation, write some proposals. I don't have to talk to anyone. It's not the way it works. There's always some things that can work a little bit like that. But in government contracting, most of this is finding things early, relationships, and it is the long game. This is not winning government contracts is not a quick win, right? It is almost never a quick win. Even when it is a quick win, most people would say that's not a quick win. Like, it could still be, if you put someone on a contract at 3 months, you're doing something really fast from a government standpoint. Versus, it could take 18 months, it could take up to 2 years, it could take even longer than that. For some of these really big contracts, companies start working those early, and that gets lost in the noise, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, and I agree. And like you said, I've had consultations with clients who have had success early and often, and they think that's a common thing. And I had to explain to them, no, you just were pretty fortunate in that scenario based on if they had a particular set aside that they think that, hey, every contract is going to be this quick. So you just explaining that to your clients, and patience is key, but knowing that eventually, if you do it right, you're going to build up towards winning a contract.
What was the hardest part about getting started for you,
Within the course or just in general?
just in general?
So I think a lot of times I'm a pretty positive person. For me, it wasn't terribly hard to get started, but I think that just the knowledge piece, because the government has a lot of regulations, there's a lot of red tape and ins and outs that you have to learn. So for most, it can be intimidating. And I think for me, it was just kind of, all right, stay to the course, follow your guideline and follow the strategy behind it. And it's been working ever since. And I know that sometimes we would like to reinvent the wheel, but if you just stick to the course and you stick to the steps, you will follow that process and you're going to have success.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, obviously we do a lot of talking and coaching and whatnot, but you've actually worked with some other people in the course as well that have helped out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've worked with a few of the people in the course from different things. So whether it's help with sales coaching, because that was something that for me, I've always been in sales, but I've never actually been the face of the sales process, I would say. But yeah, just working with other people in the course on different areas. So, and that was one phase. And then the other side of it is just actually helping other people with my results and showing them that, hey, listen, you can do this. If you get your email marketing and your messaging right, then you could start landing meetings like I did.
Yeah, it's a community. That's what I really like about it. Beyond the coaching calls, we have a community section where you can put questions, post opportunities that you want to work together on. And hey, check out my new website. What do you think of this? What do you think of this email marketing campaign that I've got going on? And you get a lot of different people to weigh in. We've got people from all walks of life, sales in the program. We got people that are just getting out of college. We got people that are also contracting officers in the military. And we got people that have federal jobs, right? The doctors, lawyers. We have people that have so many different or at least come from a lot of different fields of expertise that that provides value as well, also to me. So when I'm looking for something new or just want to get a little clarification on something that's happening right now in the federal government, there's a lot of shifts happening, right? We have a new president and a new administration, and they are trying to streamline things and they're making some cuts. So that makes things challenging for some. But it's also opening up a lot of opportunities, right? So I think one of the things that's nice about our program is everybody gets to stay involved, stay up to date, and hear the different perspectives on what's happening out there.
I agree.
What would you say to someone that's on the fence about joining GovClose? They're interested in government contracting. They've heard a lot about consulting versus selling to the government versus going out and getting a job. What would you say to that person? Is it worth their time? Is it worth their money? Should they just go off and try to do it on their own? Or what's the message?
Yeah, I would say definitely don't do it on your own. I would say anyone who's on the fence, just know that what's inside the course is going to have tremendous value for you, whether you're trying to, like in my scenario, be a consultant or you're a business just trying to win contracts. There is invaluable information there to help you facilitate that process and go in a structured approach where you could potentially position yourself and your business to win contracts or when consulting clients like I did. So there is a lot of detail, a lot of information, important information. There are certain modules that it's going to take you multiple times to go through it, but eventually you'll get it and you'll understand it. And the process will become a lot easier from going from somebody like myself who have I've been interested in getting into it on the consulting side, and it just opened up my eyes to a whole nother opportunity and angle, I would say, to the business.
Yeah. Where do you see your business going next 12 months or so?
So in the next 12 months, I would say I would like to have at least 5 to 10 consulting clients. And I think based on what I've been able to accomplish in the first 2 months, I definitely see that happening. So I expect to have tremendous growth within the business.
Yeah, I expect you to also. If there's a company out there that wants to work with you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, globalinc.com. They can also find me on LinkedIn as well. David Ortiz. I know there's probably quite a few, but Global Inc. And those are the main social platforms I'm on right now.
Great. Well, David, thanks for your time today. Thanks for being part of the program, the advice and guidance you're bringing into the new members. And just, it's great to be able to work with you every day and hear about the good things you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I know our relationship will continue to grow. And everything you do for the community, I always tell you, thank you so much. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, buddy. It's awesome. All right, cool.